My name is Sarah Chen. 3 months ago, on a cold January morning, I hired a private investigator for $500 a day to follow my husband Michael. I expected photos of him with another woman. Instead, I uncovered a conspiracy involving his parents, a respected judge and hospital administrator who were stealing from their own dying granddaughter. By spring, 3 people were in prison. Judge Harold Blake got 8 years federal, his wife Margaret 5 years and her medical license revoked. The third person? Well, that's where this gets interesting, because sometimes when you investigate a cheating husband, you discover he's not the real criminal. He's just another victim of the people who raised him. This is how I destroyed my husband's entire family and saved his soul. It started with patterns. I'm a pediatric nurse. I notice patterns. Credit card statement, $3,000, Mansfield Hotels, December 15th. Phone records, 47 calls to someone named Jessica between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. GPS history from his car, 23 trips to an address 50 miles away. Bank withdrawal, $15,000 cash, December 20th. No explanation. Michael's explanation was always the same. Client emergencies. But software engineers don't have midnight emergencies that require hotel rooms and cash. Jessica Martinez, 28. Beautiful. His new project manager, whose Instagram showed her at the same hotels where Michael had his conferences. My friend Emma said what everyone was thinking. Sarah, he's having an affair. My hands shook as I held those credit card statements. 5 years of marriage, 5 years of trust. And now this. I needed proof, not for divorce, for my sanity. That's when I hired Marcus Kane, ex-FBI, now private investigator. His specialty, infidelity cases. I want everything, I told him at our first meeting, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. Financial records, phone tracking, surveillance, everything. That's extensive surveillance. Will run you $3,000 a week. Do it! Marcus studied me with eyes that had seen too many broken marriages. Most wives say they want the truth. They really want confirmation of what they already believe. I'm not most wives. I'm a nurse. I deal with facts, not feelings. But that was a lie. I was drowning in feelings, betrayal, rage, a pain so deep it felt like my chest might cave in. 5 years of marriage. No kids yet. My choice. I'd told Michael at our engagement party, I work with sick children all day. When I have my own, they'll be healthy, or I won't have them at all. He'd said he understood, said he wanted the same thing. Looking back, that was the moment everything started. Marcus called 3 days later. Your husband leaves work at 5, drives north on I-71, exits at Mansfield. That's 50 miles away. He goes to Children's Medical Center, Pediatric Oncology Ward, stays 3 hours. My blood went cold. A children's hospital? The place where I worked every day, saving other people's children? Is he meeting someone there? A nurse? He's visiting a patient, a little girl, about 7 years old. Marcus sent photos that changed everything. Michael reading to a small Asian girl with no hair. Chemotherapy patient. Michael bringing stuffed animals. Michael crying in the hospital corridor, his shoulders shaking with the kind of grief I'd seen in parents about to lose everything. And then the document that made no sense. Michael signing papers titled Emergency Medical Guardian. Her name is Lily Zhang, Marcus reported. 7 years old, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, initially diagnosed at age 4, right after her mother's death, went into remission at 5, relapsed at 6, now in her second round of intensive chemo, stage 3, but doctors are optimistic if treatment continues. Who is she? That's where it gets complicated. Birth certificate lists mother as Anna Blake. Anna Blake, Michael's sister who supposedly died in college 10 years ago. I'd seen her photo once. hidden in Michael's desk drawer like a guilty secret. Anna Blake died of an overdose 3 years ago, Marcus continued. Not 10. Your husband has been lying about when and how his sister died. And Lily? Is his niece. And here's the kicker. He's been paying for her treatment. $200,000 so far. $200,000. From the inheritance his grandmother left us. The money that was supposed to pay off my medical school loans. The money that was supposed to secure our future. There's more, Marcus said. The money trail is unusual. Marcus laid out bank statements on my dining table like evidence at a crime scene. See this? The inheritance was $500,000 total, but only $200,000 went to Lily's treatment. Where's the other $300,000? That's what's interesting. It went into an account controlled by your in-laws, Judge Harold Blake and Margaret Blake, the respected federal judge and the hospital administrator who'd never liked me, who'd called me not quite their social level at our wedding, who'd smiled while sliding knives between my ribs at every family dinner. They told Michael the inheritance was tied up in probate, I said, my voice hollow. It was never in probate. They had full access from day one. Sarah, there's something else. Lily had her own inheritance. Anna had life insurance. $500,000 for Lily. Your father-in-law became trustee. Marcus showed me the trust statements. Starting balance 3 years ago, $500,000. Current balance, $23,000. They stole from their own granddaughter? While telling Michael that Lily's treatment was eating up the money, he's been killing himself paying bills that should have been covered by her trust. That's when Jessica Martinez entered the picture, not as a mistress, but as a social worker at Children's Medical Center. The late-night calls were about Lily's condition. The hotel charges were Michael staying near the hospital during Lily's crisis periods. My husband wasn't cheating, he was drowning, and his parents were the ones holding him under. I didn't confront Michael, not yet. Instead, I became an investigator myself. Ohio is a one-party consent state, Marcus explained. You can record any conversation you're part of. Perfect. February 10th, the Blakes' 40th anniversary party at the country club. I wore a wire under my dress, the device cold against my skin like my heart had become. I'd studied Margaret for weeks. 3 glasses of Chardonnay was her sweet spot, loose enough to brag, not drunk enough to suspect. I'd practiced my role, the finally understanding daughter-in-law who was starting to see things their way. I found her by the champagne fountain, already 2 glasses in. "Margaret," I said, touching her arm gently, "I've been thinking about what you said at Thanksgiving, about Michael being too emotional. You were right." Her eyes lit up. Finally, recognition. Finally, I was on their side. "Oh, Sarah, I knew you'd come around. You're smarter than Michael gives you credit for." I handed her a fresh glass. "Tell me more. How do you handle someone so impractical?" Margaret Blake, 3 wines in, pulled me aside. Her breath reeked of Chardonnay and cruelty. "You know, Sarah, Michael's been distant lately. We've noticed." "Have you?" I poured her another wine, my hand steady as a surgeon's. "That sister of his, such a burden even in death. Trash, really. Drug addict. Got pregnant by some dealer. Can you imagine?" My stomach churned, but I kept my face sympathetic. "And the child?" "Oh, she won't last long. Leukemia at that stage." Margaret laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "Besides, Harold has debts. Did Michael tell you that? His precious father, the respected judge, owes $300,000 in gambling debts. Bad investments, worse habits. But image is everything, isn't it?" She leaned closer, wine heavy on her breath. "Why waste money on a dying child when we have reputations to maintain? Michael's wasting funds that should go to your future children, your healthy children, or to keeping his father out of scandal." The inheritance money? Margaret's eyes glittered with malice. What inheritance? Medical bills eat everything. That's what happens when you take on other people's mistakes. I had it all, recorded. Judge Blake was harder to crack, but ego is every powerful man's weakness. Harold required a different approach. Men like him need to feel superior, need to educate the ignorant. I found him in his study, showing off his rare Scotch collection to other judges. I waited until the others left, then approached with calculated admiration. Harold, I've been thinking about getting into trust management. You know, for when Michael and I have children. You're so brilliant at it. The way you handled that complicated situation with Lily's trust. How does one even manage something like that? He preened, pouring himself another scotch. A federal judge being asked for his wisdom. Well, Sarah, most people don't understand the complexities. They think emotion should guide financial decisions. Fatal mistake. Harold, I said at the same party, Michael mentioned you helped with Lily's trust. That must be complicated. Not really. As a judge, I've seen hundreds of these cases. Parents die, leave money thinking it'll help their kids. But without proper management... He swirled his scotch like he was swirling a child's future down the drain. Let's just say it's better in responsible hands. Your hands? Who else? The child's dying, Michael's emotional. Someone has to think practically. And the money? Invested. Safely. He smiled, and I saw the monster behind the judge's robes. Don't worry, Sarah. When you and Michael have children, proper children, there'll be plenty. The real evidence came from Margaret's own hospital. Marcus had a contact in billing. What we found was damning. Invoices for Lily's treatment, $200,000. Actual cost of treatment, $50,000. The difference, fabricated charges. Margaret had been creating false bills, showing them to Michael, pocketing the difference. 2 weeks of preparation, 2 weeks of planning every word, every move. Marcus and I rehearsed the confrontation like a military operation. The FBI was ready. The evidence was packaged. All that remained was the trap. We have enough for federal charges, Marcus said. Fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. Not yet, I said. I want one more thing. What? A confession from Michael. I need to know if he knew. I confronted Michael on March 1st, not with accusations, but with concern. Michael, I know about Lily. He went white as paper, then broke down completely, collapsing into a chair like his bones had dissolved. Sarah, I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you, but you said, at Jennifer's wedding, you said you could never handle a sick child, that you wanted your own healthy children or none at all. I couldn't lose you, but I couldn't abandon Lily. The memory hit me like ice water, my own words, thrown back at me. The casual cruelty of someone who'd never faced real loss. Your parents? Did you know what they were doing? They said they were helping, said the trust was being managed. I believed them because I had to. I couldn't handle everything alone. He didn't know. He was a victim too. I stood there watching my husband sob and felt something shift inside me. The woman who'd said she'd never take on a sick child, that woman was looking at the price of her words. Michael had carried this alone because of my casual cruelty. A 7-year-old was dying while her grandparents counted stolen money. I thought about Lily in that hospital bed, the same age as my patients. The difference. My patients had families fighting for them. Lily had Michael drowning in lies and grandparents who saw her as an inconvenience to be monetized. That's when the old Sarah died. The one who wanted guarantees, who thought she could control life by avoiding its messiness. The new Sarah? She had a different plan. I knew what I was about to do would destroy a family. Michael would lose his parents. Lily might lose her grandparents forever. Was I doing this for justice or revenge? Then I thought about the other 17 elderly clients Marcus had found, all women, all widows, all robbed while grieving. This wasn't just about us anymore. Sometimes being a healer means cutting out the cancer, even when it shares your last name. I wouldn't just divorce Michael or report his parents. I would destroy them. And then I would save that little girl. March 15th, Sunday dinner at the Blake mansion. I insisted everyone attend. I'd arranged for Lily to arrive later. Jessica, the social worker, would bring her after we'd handled the confrontation. She was having a good day, and I wanted her to see her grandparents one last time, but not like this. We need to discuss Lily's future, I said. Everyone was there. Harold, Margaret, and Michael. I started soft. I know about Michael's visits to the hospital. Margaret smiled. Harold looked satisfied. They thought I was about to leave Michael. They thought they'd won. And I know about the money. Michael started to speak, but I held up my hand. Not you, Michael. Them. I laid out every document, every bank statement, every forged invoice. The evidence spread across their mahogany table like a map of their crimes. You stole $477,000 from your granddaughter's trust fund. Harold stood, his face purple with rage. That's absurd. Is it? Because I have recordings. Margaret admitting Lily won't last long. You, Harold, saying the money is in responsible hands. You can't prove anything, Harold said, his judge's voice trying to command the room. I'm a federal judge. You're nobody. That's when Marcus walked in, with 2 FBI agents. Judge Blake, Mrs. Blake, you're under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Margaret screamed, her carefully maintained composure shattering. You set us up. No, I said, my voice cold as winter. You stole from a dying child. I just documented it. That's when we heard it, a small voice from the hallway. Uncle Mike, what's happening? Lily. Jessica had brought her early. She stood in the doorway, 7 years old, bald from chemo, catching just the end, her grandparents in handcuffs. Harold saw her. For the first time in his life, Judge Harold Blake looked completely broken, not because he was going to prison, but because his granddaughter, the one he'd stolen from, was witnessing his shame. Take her to the garden, I told Jessica quickly. Now. Later, in the garden, I knelt beside Lily. Your grandparents did something wrong with money that was meant to help you. They have to go away now. Did they steal? She asked with the directness only children possess. Yes, sweetheart, they did. She nodded solemnly. Stealing is wrong. My mum told me that. The truth, delivered simply. Sometimes that's all justice needs to be. As his parents were led away in handcuffs, Michael had to choose. Testify against them, I said, or I leave and take Lily with me. I've already filed for emergency custody as her medical advocate. Sarah, choose Michael, them or us. He chose us. 6 months later, after countless depositions and pre-trial hearings, we finally faced them in federal court. The trial itself was swift. Prosecutors had an airtight case. Evidence presented, bank records showing systematic theft, forged medical invoices created by Margaret, recordings of both parents admitting guilt, Michael's testimony against his parents. Harold tried to claim judicial immunity, denied. Margaret claimed the invoices were accounting errors. The prosecutor showed 15 instances of identical errors. Their lawyer argued entrapment. The judge almost laughed. Entrapment requires law enforcement inducement. Mrs. Chen is a private citizen who documented crimes. Judge Harold Blake. Guilty. 8 years federal prison. Disbarred. Pension revoked. Margaret Blake. Guilty. 5 years federal prison. Medical license revoked. Lifetime ban from healthcare. But legal justice was just the beginning. The country club revoked their membership before the trial ended. Their church asked them not to return. The hospital where Margaret worked for 30 years removed her portrait from the Hall of Excellence. The local newspaper ran the headline, "Federal Judge Stole from Dying Granddaughter. Harold's legacy, built over 40 years, destroyed in 40 days." The court ordered full restitution, $477,000 returned to Lily's trust, plus interest and penalties, $750,000 total. Michael awarded sole guardianship, our inheritance restored. Michael's testimony was devastating, not just because he testified against his parents, but because of what he revealed. "My father offered me a deal. Stay quiet, inherit everything. $3 million to forget this happened." "What did you say?" the prosecutor asked. "I wore a wire to our meeting. You have the recording. He'd chosen us completely. I didn't just win, I replaced them, in my own way." When Margaret's position was eliminated, the hospital created a new role, Director of Patient Financial Advocacy and Ethics Oversight. My nursing background, combined with my role in exposing the corruption, made me the perfect candidate, not administrator, advocate, the person who ensures no patient's funds are ever misused again. My first initiative, creating the Anna Blake Memorial Fund for children whose families abandon them during medical crises, and implementing mandatory financial audits for all patient trust accounts. I may not have Margaret's former title, but I have something better, the power to protect families like Lily's. The portrait in the lobby, Anna smiling with baby Lily. The inscription, "Beloved Mother, failed by family, remembered with love." Every one of Margaret's former colleagues walks past it daily. Margaret wrote from prison, begging to see Lily. I visited her, once. "She's in remission," I told her through the glass. "The real treatment worked. Please, Sarah, she's my granddaughter." "No, she's my daughter now. Michael and I adopted her officially. Your name isn't even on her family tree anymore. You can't erase us." "I already have. Lily knows the truth, that her grandparents loved money more than her life," Margaret cried. I didn't. Harold's case became required study at law schools. The Judge Who Stole from a Dying Child. Ethics 101, Case Study Number 1. His entire legal career reduced to a cautionary tale. By September, Lily was in full remission. The treatment, properly funded, had worked. She started second grade, made friends, learned to ride a bike, normal childhood things her grandparents had tried to steal from her. Lily is 8 now, cancer-free. When people meet us, they assume she's always been ours. In a way, she has been. From the moment I chose to destroy the people hurting her instead of walking away. Michael and I are stronger. He learned to trust me with ugly truths. I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't leaving, it's staying and fighting. "Do you regret it?" Michael asked me recently. "Destroying my parents?" They destroyed themselves the moment they stole from Lily. I just made sure everyone knew it. "But the recording, the setup, your parents thought they were above consequences because of their positions. I proved them wrong." We don't see Michael's extended family anymore. They chose the Blakes version, that we entrapped them, destroyed them for money. Let them think that. Lily has a trust fund worth $750,000. She has parents who chose her over everything. She has life. That's worth more than the approval of people who defend child thieves. I hired a PI to catch a cheater. Instead, I caught predators wearing judges' robes and hospital badges. The husband I thought was betraying me? He was just broken, trying to save a child while drowning in his parents' lies. Sometimes the real criminals aren't strangers. They're the people who smile at Christmas dinner while stealing from dying children. Justice isn't always clean. Sometimes it requires recording your in-laws' crimes at their anniversary party. Sometimes it means choosing a dying child over family harmony. Would you have exposed them, or kept quiet to keep the peace? If you believe that stealing from a dying child deserves maximum justice, let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more stories where the truth refuses to stay buried, where justice finds a way, and where sometimes hiring a private investigator saves more than just a marriage. It saves a life. Because sometimes the best private investigator you can hire doesn't just reveal affairs. They reveal the crimes hiding behind respectability. And sometimes the greatest revenge is simply making sure a little girl lives to see 8. Lily turned 9 last week. She wants to be a doctor. A pediatric oncologist, she says, to help kids like her. The Blakes will never know.